Welcome back. We've got another video, Moss Reacts here. So we're doing British things we don't have in America. This guy's channel, Evan, however you say that last name, I have no clue. He does a lot of these types of videos. Usually they're pretty good, so I'm expecting this one to be. Yeah, let's see what you guys don't have in America that we do.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of... Oh, how embarrassing. Sorry, just a bit of force of habit there. America, land of the free, home of the endless aisles in the grocery store. But despite sometimes feeling like they've got it all, there are many things that actually manage to elude most Americans. After moving to the UK 11 years ago, it took me some time to pick up on the lingo here. Sometimes it'd be something we already have a word for in American English that I'd have to learn, like, oh, when they say rocket, they don't mean a spaceship, they mean a plane. Arugula. But there exists a certain class of item that is so ubiquitous within the UK, and yet very much not a thing in the States. These are things that it took me a really long time to wrap my head around as an American, because, well, listen, everyone knows it here, they learn this stuff since childhood, and here I am.
This is what we're here for.
And it leaves me asking, what's a toilet brush? What, this might blow your mind as a Brit. What do you mean you don't have toilet brushes in the States? I've seen what you eat. First off, rude. Secondly, true. But in America, we always have a plunger next to the toilet in case there's a clog. It's rare, but that's it. Toilets in America are much deeper and have much more water than British toilets do. Not only that, but from my experience, American toilets are just so much stronger than British ones. If you've ever been to America, I'm fairly certain you can attest to that.
Sorry,
what? Stronger than British ones. If you've ever been to America, but from my experience...
Why do you have so much water in your toilets? You know, pardon my French. And why is the front of the toilet like that? That's weird. Right, excuse my French, but you're not gonna... Is there not gonna be some things in the water? You know? That just seems weird. Why do that? I guess you don't need one of them anymore now, do you? Because if the water's up there, there's no need for it. So, I guess this does make sense, but...
American toilets are just so much stronger than British ones. If you've ever been to America, I'm fairly certain you can attest to that. I found it odd that during a road trip in California I went on in 2022 with some British friends, my friend Luke comes out of the bathroom saying, "Why do you Americans fill your toilet bowls up with so much water? It's so full it wet my willy." Wow, I thought he was just trying to brag about the pain, but no, it turns out this is a thing. Now, I'd say the idea of needing to brush away poo with a toilet brush is inevitably going to gross out a lot of Americans that have never heard of this before because, to be honest, it is pretty gross.
It's gross.
The most embarrassing thing about all of this is living with other British people, being a full-grown adult, and having them go, "Why has no one ever taught you how to use a toilet brush before?" And you have to be like, "I didn't even know that's what that thing was in the corner. I didn't know what that was for. I thought maybe you use it like when you clean the bathroom, maybe every 2-3 weeks when you do a big clean of the house." Fair, that's what you use it for, not after every individual poo. But it's just, listen. I'm not used to having issues where a toilet leaves stains because American toilets don't do that. So yeah, it might be a little embarrassing, but you know, you live, you learn. Now I've got a really nice little toilet brush that tucks itself away whenever you're finished using it. So it's hidden, it's small. I like it. I think it looks better than most toilet brushes. If you're interested in mine, I'll put it in the description. But that being said, I would easily trade out this terrible British toilet, every British toilet I've ever had, for an American one if I could. Or, oh my God, the luxury. The Japanese toilet. But one can dream, maybe if I ever own 100% of a house rather than just 25% of one. So, but as you probably know, I live in a flat, and the developer is definitely not going to let me swap out the toilet. So, toilet humor. Now, number 2, if you're someone with a uterus, it will cause you some pain. At least once a month. One thing I found odd living with so many different women in the UK is during that special time of the month, they always request one thing. A hot water bottle, or a hot water bottle. Imagine my confusion the first time someone asked me for that. Like, "Oh, Evan, do you mind picking me up a hot water bottle when you're out?" Come again? Where do I get one of those? Greg's? Like, yeah, can I get a sausage roll, a yum yum, and where do you guys keep your hot water bottles? I didn't know. Jokes aside, it turns out a hot water bottle is a bottle of water heated up and placed in a soft fabric. They're usually sold as a whole item. It's not like you just put a water bottle in fabric. I guess you could, but some people like to place them on their stomachs during cramps, and others like to heat theirs up before putting it under the covers with them to keep them warm. Now, I personally would prefer just buying a higher tog duvet for those winter months, but that's just me. I don't get menstrual cramps, so that is my privilege. Now, you might be wondering, what the hell do Americans use to deal with cramps?
That's the same with me. Like, if you're using it to put under your cushion, there's way better ways to do it, because like when one of them leaks, that's like terrible. But they barely do leak, and for when, you know, you're on your period, I could see that being some of this good.
You've seen the adverts, right? Drugs, lots of drugs. But no, I asked my American audience on Instagram what they use, and I got responses like hot rice. Hot rice? I get that's roughly the same thing, you know, kind of malleable, but I can't
I've
imagine
had
just
one of
going
them,
to
yeah.
PF Chang's and being like, I've got some cramps, give me that hot rice. And then you get different cramps. But no, it's basically the same thing. Instead of hot water bottle, it's like a bag of rice that's heated up and it's malleable just like water. So I guess that makes sense. Now I asked a few of my girlfriends across the pond as well as those in the UK, and my
Never say
British
that
friends
again.
pretty much unanimously did say they use a hot water bottle. Some of them said they just take a hot bath, whereas my American friends did say they either take rice, a drug called Midol, or they use an electric heating pad, which is very similar to a hot water bottle, but you plug it in, charges it. It's more of the future, though way less energy efficient. But then again, that depends on how you're heating your water in your hot water bottle, because as a related item that is really rare in the States that may make you nod your head and go, ah, that makes sense. Americans don't really have electric kettles, so it's not really as convenient to quickly boil some water to put in a hot water
I always
bottle.
forget you guys don't have kettles.
This way. America's lack of electric kettles already, and the reason, so I'll link that above. Now,
That's
Britain
another
is
weird
a
thing.
really, really rainy isle, and pretty much every Brit I've met from as young as 8 to as old as 90 owns a pair of wellies, the cute word for Wellington boots, which are quite rare in the
I
US.
don't
Being
anymore.
in Britain, you're just expected to know what a wellie is, and when you're invited to go to a festival, you're told everyone there will be wellies, but, well, I've never owned a pair. They're mostly used here for country walks, which is one of the biggest British pastimes. We do have rain boots in the States, but the style of long rubber tube that's so much in Britain isn't really as big a thing. They do exist, just not as big. Now, growing up in New Jersey, I think myself and many Americans owned a pair of duck boots from LL Bean. They're also where I get like my flannels from, like this one. They're kind of like the Americana outdoorsy brand version of John Lewis, if that makes sense. Duck boots are like peak rainwear men's fashion in America. Though, if you've never seen them before today, I'd love to hear what you think of them, because I feel like some people probably hate the way they look, but I don't know. I think they look good for rain boots. They're rain boots, and they kind of give that nice outdoorsy vibe. But, I mean, they're a little pricier than wellies.
They look
and
terrible.
wellies are a much cuter name, I'll give you that. Brits always have a
Just
much
put
cuter
cardboard
name.
on your
from what
feet
I've
and it
heard,
would look
putting on
better.
a pair of British rain boots is well easy. So there's your bad pun. But speaking of waterproof shoes, this video sponsor, just kidding, is no, it's not.
He really loves his dad jokes, doesn't he?
I had you. I had you. All right, moving along. We're now halfway there. So if
What was that? Moving along.
click the subscribe button. Sorry, I don't make the rules. I'll be squashing any dissent. But speaking of squash, it does exist in the States. But you know, it's just a vegetable. We have some butternut squash, different types of squash, or a fruit, I guess. I mean, if you want to be pedantic, squash is technically a fruit. But squash in the UK and only refers to 3 nouns. One is the same vegetable we have in the States, and the other 2 are similar enough, but also comically different if you come from a different country like I do. At this point, I'd lived in the UK for over a year or so I was staying over at a friend's house, and it turns out they had squash. I had heard Brits really loved squash, so I poured myself a glass, and good lord, did I wince? You know, Brits always love bullying Americans for how sugary their food and their drink is, but Jesus, that cup of squash was so much like liquid sugar. Like, it was both thin and thick at the same time, like maple syrup, like someone condensed 2 bottles of Sunny D into a single glass. Now, I'm assuming this is a common mistake for migrants to make the move to the UK, but squash refers to not only the drink you make with squash, but also squash. So it's a bottle of concentrated sugar and fruit syrup that you mix.
Don't
with
tell
like
me he
5, 6,
drank
7
it by
parts water,
itself.
but it's also the drink that you mix together. So how was I to know I was supposed to mix, all right? You don't think someone says they drink a drink and you're supposed to like read the instructions that say
no,
mix
that
it
does
with
make
things.
sense. You wouldn't think to.
I drank the double concentration nonsense. It was not nice. This is the one I just picked up from the local store. It's called Ribena. Nice. And I will be honest, it's not bad. I personally just really enjoy water. I like water's my favorite drink. I know that's super lame, but also it's the best drink. So what's wrong with you if you don't like water?
Squash is great, and at 350,
small amount of this
dash
really
in a little bit of water,
gives this
and
a
you
nice
get like
kick. And
50
from what I've
to 100
seen,
drinks.
This isn't too unhealthy, so I mean, I can see the appeal of it, especially if you've got kids and they're like, Mommy, I want to drink soda. And you're like, sorry, I consider that a form of abuse. I suppose this is actually a healthy compromise. But this isn't just any ordinary squash. This is the most popular flavor of it. And in fact, one of the most popular fruity flavors in all of Britain that is practically non-existent in the States. And that, of course, is blackcurrant. Unless you've moved countries like I have, you'll never really understand the confusion.
You guys just have grape instead, which we don't really have.
You that seems so incredibly commonplace that you begin to question whether or not it also existed where you're from and maybe you were just living under some sort of rock. But no, Brits just love black currants, and they use the flavor in everything. Pies, jams, drinks, medicines, Skittles. Even the purple Skittle is actually blackcurrant flavor, which is such a shame. Because blackcurrant is just so mid. I'm sorry, but it's just not that good.
This
Now,
is
some
an
of these on my
American
list
view,
you
so
might
it's
say,
fine.
Hey, I know some Americans with wellies, or hey, I
No,
actually knew a few Americans.
different
that had
taste
hot water
buds,
bottles.
because no
But
way is that
blackcurrant is
see.
almost completely unknown to Americans, with less than 0.1% of Americans having even had a blackcurrant in their lives. I might
That is
actually make
crazy.
an entire extra video about this topic because I find it so interesting, and I think you will too. But spoiler alert, basically blackcurrants were banned in the States for many, many years, and so we found something better,
then.
the grape. Okay, we have grape-flavored things.
Grape
and
is
grapes
not
are
better.
delicious. Obviously, grapes are used in the
Nowhere
UK too,
near.
but not really the grape flavor. You cannot find many grape-flavored things here, as
Nope.
it's been replaced with a worse fruit, the blackcurrant. If you never have had grape jelly before, you're missing out. Sadly, every UK supermarket I've ever been to, they got strawberry jam, they got raspberry jam. They
Grape
don't have any
jelly.
grape-
To be honest, it probably could be alright.
I don't know why I said it like that.
I
But
don't
I
know why
just miss
I'm-
grape jelly
it
so
could
much.
be alright.
It's just got a specific flavor.
Just
that's
sounds so
nice.
weird.
Grape soda, grape jelly, the grape Skittle. You guys don't know what you're missing out on, all right? Think about it like this. If you like wine,
And what he thinks
that's
is
made out of
grape,
grapes,
in
right?
reality,
You probably like
is
grape
just
flavors
sugar.
too, and you'd switch to being on Team Grape-ab. God, that was a bad pun. I just plug them in where they don't fit. Now, speaking of switching and plugs, I'm really trying with these segues, guys. We all know that British electrical plugs are superior as a feat of engineering that prevents shocks. I couldn't tell you the amount of times that I was shocked as a child, physically shocked, by unplugging or plugging in my Nintendo and whatnot. I could. It probably like at least 4 times, but I remember each of those times because I'm in formative years and I learned
Never
very
for
early
me.
on to be very afraid.
'Cause I'm
of
English.
It was genuinely scary, and that's pretty much not a thing here due to how British plugs are designed. They're
Yeah.
like butterscotch in that they're always grounded. When I told this story to my friend Luke, he looked at me like I had 3 heads and went, how is that supposed to be a shared experience? I've never been shocked. So kids here, they get to have safe outlets. Lucky you. But what you might not know is those incredibly commonplace switches next to every single British outlet to allow you to cut off power specifically to that single appliance are practically non-existent in the US. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Another reason to fear American electronics. Now, you might think having
don't know
switches on
why.
outlets is a little bit extra, but there are
No.
3 big perks to this. 1, it's nice to have another way to turn off an appliance. Extra ways to control your home is surely going to be a good idea, right? 2, a lot of appliances these days, even when you have them powered off, still use a small amount of energy. For instance, all the smart lights I have in my house, they're always listening, you know, whether I tell them to turn off and whatnot. So cutting the power at the
Yeah.
outlet, if that's what you're into, would save you a little bit of energy at least, especially during cozy lives. But the biggest reason they're mandatory in the UK is for how much safer they make plugging things in. In America, when you plug a plug-in to a powered-on outlet, as the pins get closer to where you're connecting to, you may have some electricity jumping out or arcing to connect to the pins, and other times you hear that terrifying crackle sound as things connect. I've definitely had more
Doesn't
than one
happen in the
outlet in
UK
the States that
at
ended
all.
up burned
Never
like
had
this.
that happen.
But if the US kept their same plug style and everything else, but added only switches to the outlets, it would pretty much solve that problem. If the outlet is powered off when you plug in, there's no current to leap to your pins. Then you simply turn on the power, boop, with the switch, and everything's nice and snug. No
Bing, bang,
arcing.
bosh.
Isn't that nice? Now, luckily
That
for
is
us in
nice.
the UK, that is never really needed for that safety precaution because there's already 2 other safety precautions
Yeah.
in place,
Yeah.
such as having the ground pin mandatory in all British plugs and having it be a little longer so when you are plugging it in, it's always grounded. Also, insulation on the upper half of the plug. There's so many good perks to the British plug. This is one of those things where I'm just surprised that at least in the US they don't just adopt one extra thing. Like,
Yeah,
just for
the
safety.
switch,
Plus,
it
in the
makes
event that
sense,
something
'cause
goes horribly
changing
wrong
the
and
whole
maybe
thing
someone
would
is
be
getting
a
shocked
costly
from their
thing, so I
wire,
get it,
well,
but-
all you have to do is flip the switch and
Yeah,
you're
just
fine.
add switches.
As opposed to
That makes
having
sense,
someone
like-
pull out the wire that's currently causing shocks. Not
There
a
is
good
no
idea.
reason
Or,
not
I
to
guess,
do that.
running to turn it off the mains, which, judging from the size of most American homes, well, by the time you come back, that person has been electrocuted. So. It just makes sense to add switches to outlets. Now, as an added little fact, in England and Wales, roughly 7 people die per year due to electrocution in a domestic setting, whereas in the US, that number is dwarfed by children alone dying from shocks. Like I said, it is very much a standard American experience to be shocked as a child. Eventually,
the
you realize maybe maybe don't stick a fork in there. Also,
Yeah.
I do just want to point out that I'm not an electrician. I know being on YouTube, people
That's
expect
crazy.
you know
That's
everything.
actually
I do
crazy.
not. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. So there will probably be someone much smarter than me in the comments that's an electrician, what do they call him here, a Sparky, who's going to give
can't
you
believe
a lot of fun
that.
facts. So check the comments.
7 in the
section.
UK,
I said
over
something. But
300
where exactly is
children.
my comment section anyway?
In the US, that's crazy, man.
Oh, it's under me. Thanks. Well, in America, that sort of crowd involvement where you break the fourth wall in a bit is not really something that is done ever except in like Dora the Explorer. You know, like, hey, ¿dónde está Swiper? Cerca del lago, cerca del lago. Gracias. Está allí. Yes, my Spanish has come along okay.
He just wanted to
Thanks.
sell off his
But besides
Spanish.
Dora, it's really not a thing. However, over here, Brits absolutely love their pantomimes, or pantos as they like to call them, which are really, really popular during the Christmas period. And if you thought Dora the Explorer was just
Don't know
some
who
sort of
likes them.
fun
Never
show
really
for
liked them,
children,
but each their
you'd be
own.
surprised. Adults here absolutely get super involved in the pantos as well. I've seen a little panto at Kew Gardens once, and it involved a fairy, I think. In fact, I think most traditionally are based on old children's stories, but simply put, it's a performance where the cast are like, "What?" And the crowd is like, "He's right there," or "He's behind you. It's on your dress."
Yeah, I
something
remember
like that.
liking
If I said
it as a
something
kid.
like, "You all subscribe to my YouTube channel," you'd say, "Oh no, we don't." Damn, I mean, I was hoping for yes, we do. But I
Sorry,
appreciate
bud.
the, reality check. That's fine. Now, I can see the appeal of being more involved in a show, but they're okay. Maybe it's because I've never been to like a real one. If you have any good recommendations for ones in London, I'd be open to hearing. But if you try explaining the concept of a pantomime to an American, they'll probably just look at you like you've got three heads, as pantomime in American English is pretty much, going to be a silent performance with mimes. At least that's what I would have thought it would be. Whereas it's quite literally the opposite of a silent performance. And assumably the American will probably also bring up Dora the Explorer. She's just that super cool explorer, Dora. You want to know what a real panto is like? Well, let me ask you a question. Does anyone know where I can build a professional-looking website? Squarespace! Oh yeah, thanks. That's coincidental, because today's video is a blog, a web store, customer support.
Okay, I think that was
As
it.
I kind of whipped it up real quick while I've been spending...
That was it. Before I was getting that skipping quickly, but no. Yeah, that was a nice informative video. There's a couple things which, like, the plug. Why have you guys not implemented at least a switch or something that would just make it a little bit safer? Because I can't believe that many deaths a year off of just kids as well. Oh, crazy. And the toilets. Why are toilets, the water is so high? That I will never get, because it will just be so annoying every time you go toilet. You've got to like build a hammock for your junk to keep it out of the water. That's weird. Why? Yeah. Okay. Well, that's it for today. If anyone has any, videos that they want to suggest, I like reacting to music. So if there's any artists you think I'd find enjoyable to react to, put them in the comments. If you've liked the video, give it a like and subscribe. Alright, that's it guys, see ya.